I think the most important thing in life is oneself. I like
Mhm.
me for me, and you for you, and um, for each of us to know what our
Awesome. Hello, Claire. It's wonderful to have you on the podcast today. What time is it? It's a little late there for you right now, correct?
yeah. It's 7:30 right now.
Oh,
39.
7:39. Not bad. Let's do it. So tell us a little bit about what brought you on today.
Well, I guess we've been talking on X, so I've been starting my journey on X a bit more than 2 months ago. It's going to hit three quite soon. And so I'm talking mostly self development and like empowerment, motivation, but also just like thought control. It's a mix and match still, but yeah. So we got chatting about this and matched, and so we thought we'd do this.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your story and how you got into self-development, thought control, and all of that really fancy stuff.
Oof. So I generally say I've been interested in psychology and just human behavior since I'm really little. I still remember my mom like reading like not newspapers, what do you call them? The ah like the booklets,
Magazines.
like magazines. Like
Okay.
it's psychology today, you know? So like it was
Mm.
something that would always be lying around, and so I got in touch with this quite early on. And just simply people, like being traveling since I'm very little and like meeting new cultures and meeting the most different kinds of characters and personalities has always got me very interested in that.
Awesome. Okay, and that is you do mindset coaching now on X as well, and then you
I
or
haven't thrown it out there yet. Like I'm still
okay.
working on the offer and all, but yeah, just trying to get more confidence in all of this as I haven't coached anyone yet, but I'm hoping to do so around like July or the latest around September.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And so what would your program excuse me, what would your program look like and how would you take someone through that mindset process and everything?
I think the most difficult part is to actually even realize and become like aware that something is missing. Like so many people are stuck either in their job or in just their life in general and are unsatisfied or unhappy with something, but they don't actually feel what is wrong, you know? So like to actually make it to the root of that and make them become aware of it. And then through the right questions, figure out what it actually is that is hindering them in like arriving at where they would like to be, right? So it's like such a different spot of realizing that I'm not happy where I am and then actually realizing where I would like to be is a big path, and it's something that I personally had to go through in the last year because I was able to break free from working in hospitality. I used to be a hotel management degree or graduate, and I worked in hospitality all my life, and I always enjoyed it, but I never saw like the potential of enough work in it. So I felt like wanting to do something else but didn't really know how to change that, and sequences of possibilities arrived that like kind of brought me into like advertisement and then now like event management. So it's like the possibilities are endless, and to actually realize that and start to take steps in that direction has been super overwhelming. So it would be the right questions in the right frame and the right stage for that person to realize it themselves, because I can't give you the answers that you have inside of you, right?
Mhm. Yeah, and so stepping out of hospitality and everything like that, what did that feel like and look like for you? And what does it look like now?
It was more like my entire life has actually been a series of like lucky coincidences, if you want to say so. Like I think I'm just generally a positive person, and that is a reason why so many good things have happened to me. But at the same time, like especially this hospitality freedom thing is, I became friends with one of the regulars that came to the shop every day and simply chatting, you know, and then like at some point finding out like what they do, and he's a director, so like a film director, but he's also doing advertisements spots that are like 20, 30 seconds long. And as our friendship grew stronger, I just kept like complaining about things that were happening at work that I wasn't satisfied with. And at some point, he was just like, "Hey, do you want to be my assistant?" And I'm like, "What does that even mean?" And so he explained to me that it's basically the preparation of the document to present the project to the client. So it's not something that you need to go to university to understand. It's more like to have a gift in organizing, and then just understanding the visuals, understanding like the creation and the creative part behind it, and all those things like came really easy to me. So it was fun from the start. And the lucky part inside of that is that it was project based. So it's not something that I'm fully employed and I do like a 40-hour week, but like sometimes for 2 months I don't work, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, we want a project, and I'm like, okay, and then from that moment on, for the next 2 to 4 weeks, I'm full on and I'm like on call at whatever time of the day to do stuff, and that gives me the freedom to be focusing on other things which I would potentially like to do. And that's where this question came up for me. Like, okay, now that I can do whatever I want, what do I want to do?
Yeah. That's so cool. And so now that you can do whatever you want to do, how do you feel your days when you have those 2-3 month stints where you're not doing the job?
So initially, I was just super happy about all the free time and I enjoyed it a lot. So I had my mom come to visit and I was seeing friends a lot and things like that. And just like thinking, oh, it's going to be super easy, right? And until like not so many jobs came in. And I was like, oh man, I need to like find a different way to also make money. Like, what can I do? Like, with the set of knowledge that I have. And that actually made me feel quite insecure because I think it's something that I personally rely on a lot is the thing, oh, I haven't gone to university or I don't have like a fancy degree in marketing or anything, right? But I've always been very self-taught. So I'm like, okay, what am I actually interested in? What are the things that I want to look into? And then it slowly but surely became clear to me that like psychology and the human behavior and just like all the self-help books that everyone is always talking about, like I dove into that and just realized like I couldn't stop like talking about it and like reading about it and learning about it. So to a point where I noticed that friends around me didn't have this knowledge. So I was like, okay, cool, maybe I can explain stuff to people that haven't understood that yet and like make them see that they can do whatever they want to, right?
Mhm. Right. Absolutely. And so in regards to that, I'm guessing that's kind of where Twitter's come in a little bit.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think everyone or many of us that have started on Twitter got into it through Danco.
Mhm.
So it's just like our savior. And yeah, so just understanding like the realm of the online possibilities, just trying to do it on Instagram and then like just copy pasting it into Twitter. And it's just, it felt so fake, you know, it didn't
Right.
feel honest. And I didn't like that side of it. So I started to like look around more, like what is it that I actually need to do? Because we all need to realize at some point that it's not going to be an easy route. Like we want to have like the quick fix and like, money's going to rain and I'm just going to be able to have time. But like, what do you do with the time once you have it, you know?
Mhm.
So yeah, I think it was that. And then starting on Twitter and thinking it's going to also be like easy because the beginning is just fun and games and networking and talking. And then like you hit a wall every now and then being like, okay, this has been working until now, but what do I do now? No, so it's a constant reinvention and realization and new learnings and new doubts and new learnings and new doubts. But it's super exciting and very, very cool. I'm loving it actually.
Dude, that is so awesome. And so I kind of was stalking your feed before this, and in January you tweeted about making this year one of the most growing and evolving years for you. Tell me a little bit how
Mm-hmm.
you're aiming to do that and what it's looked like.
So I think one of the things, or like one of my biggest flaws, is that I'm not very consistent at the things that I do because I get very excited at the beginning about stuff, and to actually keep with something has been something hard for me. So I made it this year's mission kind of to actually finally stick with something and see what happens if I don't quit. You know, that's literally the sentence I have in my mind. Like, let's see what happens if you don't quit. So just taking all these roadblocks and like not getting deceived by them and not thinking it's not possible just because I don't know yet, you know. So adding this little word at the end of a sentence has changed so much for me. It's like, okay, I don't know yet, because everyone says so often like, oh, I don't understand this and I'll never understand. It's like, yeah, of course, if you don't try to understand it and you don't try to solve the problem for you, then you won't. So it's a bit of that quest for me. That's like this idea of this year, and so far it's going good.
That's so awesome. And so as you build on Twitter and as you work through this, there's something that you kind of always touch on, which is individual systems or like systems that are your systems. What are some of your systems and how have you found those?
I think it's all trial and error and being honest with yourself, because there's so much information out there telling you to get up at 5 a.m. and like eat the frog and do the hardest task in the morning, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, okay, you read this and you're like, I'm going to do this. It's going to work for me, right? And then you fail and then you're disappointed and you think something's wrong with you. And there's nothing wrong with you if those don't work for you, because you simply have to find the system that works for you. So this is the biggest point that I want to make, especially when I'm going to work with people, is to actually see what is your rhythm. Like, how do you like to structure your day? Is your life quite routinary, where you could say, okay, every day from Monday to Friday is pretty much the same, and I'm going to do it all the same, especially because that works well for you. Personally, I'm not like that at all. So I get bored really fast. My days never look the same. As I just said, like the project stuff comes along from today to tomorrow, and I can't keep up with the routine that I had before. So I kind of need to anticipate that and change things for me as they go. So it's learning about how to be structuring your calendar and how to organize your non-negotiable tasks for every day. And personally, for me, like coming back to the eat the frog thing, it's the sitting down at night and realizing what you're supposed to do the next day. Because at night I'm so motivated and I'm like, okay, cool, tomorrow I'm gonna do all the things, but I don't write them down. And then I would get up in the morning or not get up in the morning and be like, what are even the things that I need to do, you know? And so to avoid that for me, because I know that for me that's a big block, I started to do this. I sit down at night when I'm still motivated and my mind is already running, and I'm going to write down, okay, tomorrow, first thing, I do this, and this. It's kind of easy. I enjoy doing it. And once like everything starts to like kind of take some form, I'm going to be like, all right, are we feeling good now? Let's make a coffee and then let's get into focus and do the thing that I've been kind of dreading to do.
Okay, interesting. And so when you wake up or when you go to bed, you journal in a sense. Do you reflect on your day at all or anything like that? Like this went good, this went bad, or do you just write what's going to happen tomorrow?
I haven't been doing that yet. I know many people are very much into journaling, and I used to actually journal a lot, like daily. I'm actually keeping a diary since 2006.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but I think I haven't dove into it enough to like get more guiding questions for myself and to figure out how to actually make it more useful for me, because I just noticed that I would like complain or talk about the same issues for me all the time, and then I would just get annoyed while writing. I'm like, I'm already talking about this again, like can't I just solve this? So right now I'm more in a action mode and not so much reflecting mode, so trying to keep like momentum, so to say, and um, just focus on what needs to be done. Because as soon as I think about like, oh, what has happened in the sense of even gratitude and everything, I could or tend to spiral into either negative thoughts, or I get so hyped and I'm like, cool, I can chill, you know? So I want to like escape that and for now focus more on this these days, you know? And eventually, once I have more of a routine, I could totally see myself focusing more on journaling and reflecting and actually understanding how far I've come.
Yeah, that's super cool. And so kind of bouncing a little bit backwards a little bit to where you were talking about psychology and everything. Are there any like books or like people that you really enjoy when it comes to learning about psychology, personal development, or anything along those lines?
I'm always really bad at remembering names. But so two of the most inspiring books for me have been The Power of Now
Okay.
and what's it called? Evolve Your Brain.
Okay. Never
Yeah,
heard of that
Evolve Your
one.
Brain is by Joe Dispenza.
Okay.
Okay, so one, basically telling yourself that there is no moment but the present, and to actually stop focusing so much on what has happened or what could be happening or what you want to happen, but be more in the now, which doesn't mean I'm just going to party and I'm only going to see friends because I'm only on the momentary pleasure, but it's my present moment is the only one I can influence. So now is the time to actually do the things that will create the future that I'm dreaming about, right? We're not completely forgetting about the past. We're not completely forgetting about the future either, but we're actually focusing on the present and what we can do now. And the one from Joe Dispenza is basically that your thoughts are your power, you know, like things happen in your mind all the time if you let them. And if you're not the one focusing and being aware about them, they will just like do whatever the fuck they please, right? So it's the realization that you can become aware of them, and you actually directing them have an active effect on the things that you will reach and that you will know and that you will achieve.
Super cool. So kind of bouncing back to The Power of Now, one of my favorite books. I love that book so much. And I'm
That's so
curious to
cool.
ask you about when you are in those moments of like stuck in the past or stuck in the future, how do you bring yourself back to the present? How do you do that?
Hmm. I think it's a very difficult one because it's almost like a hypnosis that one brings onto oneself, right? So you're not realizing for the longest time what's happening. It's like a deep focus. So the past actually personally doesn't hit me so hard because I don't have any like crazy traumatic experiences, and most things that have happened have been pretty cool. So I'm usually more the kind to like get lost in pictures and like get lost in like memories and then be like, ah, man, so much time has passed. Okay, let's come back here. Okay, but I'm more one to worry about the future. So like that I'm not doing enough now, and that yeah, I still should be doing more. So hmm, it's a difficult one, I think, because sometimes I just let myself be in it as well, because I think there's big realization in this kind of struggle, and to actually go deep with it and actually feel it and realize what are the actual things that are making me so worried about this right now. And the moment you kind of start to shift in that direction and to see, okay, I'm worrying about this because I feel like I'm not doing enough now. What could I be doing? Like, what's this big goal? And then I'm slowly realizing, okay, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to write down the big goal. What are the small little goals in between? This is a super basic, but it's just the truth, you know. Like everyone is saying this, but that's just how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm imagining that the thought construction part of when you answered my questions was kind of from the evolve your brain portion. And so what thought constructions do you use to either start your day, end your day, middle of the day? Is there anything that's like really important for you to like you wake up and you're like I'm going to have a great day or like something along those lines?
So personally, there's moments where I'm just like snapping out of the thought. And even though I don't recommend this for any situation, it's more of a we're not thinking about this now kind of thing, you know? So I'm personally having a really hard time getting up in the morning because I'm a big sleeper. So it's something that like if the alarm goes on 2 times and it's like, oh, I really want to stay in bed. Once I notice that thought, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, literally counting 1, 2, 3. And by the time it says 3, I have to get up. And there is this discrepancy, I don't know if that's the right word, but where people say like I just can't. Like you can't because you believe you can't.
Mm-hmm.
So you lying there and being like I'm paralyzed, obviously you're paralyzed, you're telling yourself you're paralyzed. So 1, 2, 3, and like giving your brain this mechanism more and more in moments where it's not as hard will teach you to be able to do it in moments where it is that hard.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. I'm going to try that because getting up in the morning, I listen to that alarm and I'm like,
And the bed is so comfy, right?
so comfy. And then I sleep with 2 dogs. So I'm like, oh, you guys are so warm. Can we just lay here?
Oh, that's so cute. Do they sleep with you in the bed?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, they are the biggest cuddle bugs. One lays like by my head, the other one lays on the feet. Perfect.
Double protection. Like a sandwich.
Big old sandwich. But so what other thoughts like something that I've always found is really big is like ending my day on a good note helps me start my day on a good note. And I'm curious to ask you, like, when you get thrown into projects and things like that, does that stress you out and overwhelm you?
I think it does, yeah.
Okay.
But it's getting better every time. Like it's something that like I learn to accept, and every time the process is a different one. So I'm like kind of expecting everything to be new and different again. So it's the acceptance of madness. But I used to get really stressed because obviously you have your life going and you're like planning other things, and then all of a sudden it just gets all wiped out, and it's like, okay, you need to be on call for anything
Right.
now. I would get super stressed, and I would feel bad about like canceling on other things or not. Like I'm, for example, working. Ooh, my computer just told me it's 8 o'clock. Sorry. That I have a weekend shift, and then it's like, okay, I'm gonna need to check if I can do this, and it's just organizational things that would stress me out a lot because I don't like to disappoint people in that way. And it's something that's out of my hands, but that's like a big responsibility. So it's learning to manage this and like communicate it well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you see, we can just do the do you barista on the weekends? Is that what we talked about? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you enjoy that? Is it a local cafe?
It's actually my partner's cafe.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. So as I mentioned, like I did a hospitality degree, so I did go through like all the sections of a hotel, like with reception and human resources and sales and all of that. So it's like a combined degree of everything, and I traveled with that, like just working in restaurants and cafes, etc. And I ended here in Madrid, wanting to work in coffee because I figured out that coffee is absolutely crazy when I was in Australia. That it's not just this like drink that you make and it always turns out the same, but it's like such a complex product. So I loved that, and I fell into this world of coffee and the nerdiness behind it for about 3 years that I was here. And then, like as I said, I like kind of got saved out of it because I was a bit sick of working the hours and all of that. And the cool part was that I still enjoy making coffee. I still enjoy being a barista. I love the rush and like the focus that you get when you're like working. So it was the perfect match to just like be doing weekend shifts when it's really busy, and like to actually work with my partner. And it's like a family owned cafe. So we're all young people and we all get along and we're like kind of friends. And the guests are like a mix of tourists, but at the same time locals that come like weekly or even daily. So it's a super nice vibe to be in. And at the same time, it's like dipping my toe in, but then like leaving when it's not fun anymore.
I think it's a great balance too. And another thing you talk about a little bit on your page is about finding that balance. And has there anybody moments in your life where you have lost that balance and have tried to find it again or struggled?
Oh, definitely.
Mhm.
Like daily, weekly, I don't know. It's just, I
Yeah.
think life is just madness, you know, and hormones as a woman are even crazier, and then like just living and things that are happening on the outside and all the political stuff that's going on, and like money, and can I make it and can I not make it, and do I believe in myself and do I not, it's like there's days that you're stronger and there's days you're weaker, and it's just about, again, that balance of having this like foundation with yourself to not fall below a certain doubt towards yourself, and to just be embracing the shitty day. It's like, today I just feel like shit and we're just gonna like do something else, and then come back to it stronger, and not like get worn out by the fact that, oh, today I feel like I suck. So it's a lot about that. Yeah, I'm not sure I answered your question
No,
right.
that was perfect. Another kind of, you mentioned it a little bit. Regarding the like having days where that are just like shitty, how do you go about not forcing work?
What exactly do you mean?
So a lot of people, especially on Money X, when they're like, oh no, you have to get up and do this thing every single day, even when you're tired, even when you're this, even if your dog died, like you have to wake up and just do the work. What are your protocols for that? How do you go about that? Because we all have really shitty days.
Yeah, of course. I think the most important thing in life is oneself. I like
Mhm.
me for me, and you for you. And um, for each of us to know what are our limits is obviously a complicated task, but it's something we need to learn, and it's nobody teaching us. So like you were saying, like your dog died, fuck that. If my dog dies, I'm not doing anything.
Right.
That's me. And there's someone else that might not want to think about the loss, and like would rather hustle through it and then like face it a bit later. So it's such a complicated thing to answer, actually. But for me, it's, yeah, I most times I want to push myself because I think it's worth it. But there is a moment where you feel, or where I feel like just clouded and maybe even a bit dizzy, and I can't even focus anymore. And it's just like, no, closing the laptop and just like going for a walk and taking some sunlight and touching some grass. Like nature is the ultimate healer. So going for a run has been amazing these days. Like I hate running, and I'm actually starting to embrace it for the simple fact of, when I feel down and I feel like I've stared into like this hole in my computer forever, it's the thing that's like letting my mind slip, and I'm not listening to music, I'm not taking my phone, I'm just going. And when I feel like stopping, I just lie down. So it's this thing to learn for yourself, to know when to stop. And it's such a difficult thing to understand. And I'm not perfect at it yet by any means, but it's something that I would love to be able to explore with someone, to like, for them or you even figure out like, okay, I have been working so and so many hours, and to always after 4 or 5 hours actually have to take a break, because you
Mhm.
notice that if you do so, you'll be working the next half of your day way better. Or maybe you need every 30 minutes to be a break and wash some dishes and then come back, like how many interruptions does one person need is so individual again.
Yeah, absolutely. And outside of that, what are some of your favorite like thought experiments or just questions that you do to engage that personal development and personal building?
hmm. I think that is something I'm still finding very difficult, because it's something that I want to figure out, like what questions specifically to ask, because it's not something that like, okay, I have a list and it's like, what are you feeling right now? Or what's the most complicated thing that you have been facing? It's just like this conversation that we're having, that's something that I'm telling you brings up a question in you, and then you will ask me.
Mhm.
So, but it's obviously going deeper into, if you notice that someone is turning around on the same subject again, and then like picking on that, like, okay, but why do you feel like that? Or what do you think has, what's the word? Like has primed you to think like that? And to just like go inward and understand that, and the repetitiveness of things that can happen to you, and what can actually kick you into a negative cycle. And so to notice, okay, we're at this point, okay, you felt bad there, how long before did you not feel bad? What happened the moment before you felt bad? Like, is there like some kind of inducer, or is it you kicking it off, or is it literally a smell, is it a sound, is it, you know so I think it would be things like this.
Wow. Okay, that's super cool. The smell. I didn't even think of that one. Don't mind me, I'm taking notes.
You
um,
didn't think of which?
smell. I guess like I can understand appetite wise.
Yeah,
I have to
I
think
think
about that
smell
one.
is such a powerful one. Like smells, sounds, and even like touch
Mm.
and flavor. So there's actually like a super interesting thing where you can induce flow for yourself in like priming yourself. So every time you go in flow, you will do this row of habits. But it's not necessarily getting up, brushing my teeth, doing a stretch, and then going into the flow. But having a perfume, like I have like a cheap-ish perfume that I enjoy the smell of, that I will put on right before I want to go into focus work. I have the routine to make myself a coffee right before, to chug a huge glass of water, maybe to put on the same playlist. Like I have one playlist that's called work background. So it's like I'm priming everything around me and all my senses to the fact that I'm going to start being focused. And it's about repeating that often enough times and actually managing to get into the focus state for however long, that can be 10 minutes at the start, and then it's 20, and then it's 30, but to always have either one or two or three cues, like chewing the same kind of gum, having the same smell, having the same coffee, or tea or whatever you like, so.
Okay, that's a lot of fun. And I gotta ask, what's your favorite coffee? What's your go-to?
Ooh, Ethiopia.
Really?
You mean coffee shop, or you meant coffee, right?
Coffee? No, like yeah, the type of coffee. Ethiopian. Okay. Single
Yeah,
or
Ethiopian
single or mixed?
single.
Okay.
Single. 100% single and light roast.
Light roast. Okay, I love light roast. I struggle a lot with dark roast. They have to be like very specific. I like
Yeah.
like a good like mahogany or like evergreen like thick dark roast I could do, but I can't do a lot of dark roast. They're just too much.
I mean, the dark roast tends to have more body. Like, I like to explain it with toast. Like, if you have a white toast, it will just taste like bread. And then if you toast it a little bit, it's like crunchy and nice and has some like caramelized flavors. But if it's like the usual industrial coffee, you burn that bitch in your toaster. You're like
Scraping it.
off.
Oh man, that's so awesome. Ethiopian.
Yeah. Ethiopian coffee for sure, or anything like Africa is crazy, like Rwanda, because they have so many minerals in their grounds that like go into the coffee and just like give it this specific flavor. The complicated thing is that they don't have many like resources and are not like so modern yet. So there's some things that they can't control that if they could, like how fast does it dry, or what fermentation processes they use, and like what machinery and how is the control, because they say, oh, it's been fermented for 24 hours, and then when you actually speak to the people, they're like, oh yeah, maybe it was more like 48, but we're like, we forgot about it, so coffee is
Wow.
a whole world.
Okay, that's good to know. You do know a lot about coffee. Man,
It's
dedication.
crazy because it is the favorite beverage of the planet. Like, it's the most drunken beverage, I believe, in the world.
Really?
And yeah, and people just don't know how much of it is being done wrong. Like, and I think it's something that I'm observing more and more in like life itself, is that we're having these cycles, right? Like, I mean, and so we had the industrial revolution where everything became easy, everything became cheaper. It was a whole lot better for many people because everyone could afford to eat and everyone had like more work, etc. But we lost touch with the natural processes of things because we made everything so quick, like pancake mixes and like instant foods and microwave stuff. So now I think we're in this like curve where we're actually going back to understanding all these produces that we have and want to go back to the most natural way possible of it. And science is just catching up with so much. It's not only in psychology, but also in like, okay, we know coffee, we were burning coffee, how do we have to treat it? Bread, it's not about just throwing loads of fermentations in there. It's like, okay, it's salt and water and flour, and that's all you need,
Mm-hmm.
so understanding how the processes actually work and going to the root of it, which is the thing I find the most fascinating. And I think that's the thing I love so much in psychology as well, is that there is such a mix of individuality, but at the same time it's they are very strategic and like set in stone factors that will help you, like going outside and breathing some air and getting some light in your eyes. It's like
Yeah.
it will absolutely help you. I recommend it to anyone.
Well, and another thing, I know it's not physically like or mentally psychology, but like just simple things like drinking water. So many people neglect it. And I'm like, no wonder you're exhausted and you're mentally fatigued. You don't drink any. And it's
Absolutely.
also going to the raw factors of like our water, especially in the US, is so cleaned and so filtered. And so like everything is stripped out of it. And so it's like, okay, you got to add a little bit of salt. You got to get some potassium in you. You got to get some stuff in there because you're just having a liquid right now. It's not.
Totally. No, and some people don't know. And that's again like the thing of understanding it. It's not anymore about just drinking water. It's about drinking the right water.
To make it more complicated for you.
Totally. But it's okay. You can't just open the tap. Like in Madrid, for example, the water is drinkable. but I'm filtering it because I have a friend that is actually in coffee, but she did like a chemical engineering degree, and
Mm.
she analyzed the water coming out of the tap. And she said, like, yeah, it's fine to drink. It's not like it's gonna harm you, but it has like some heavy metals, and it has like some, like I think it was calcium or something. Well, yeah. And she recommended this filter, like a Brita, but Brita is like a shitty filter. And she said, like, no, I have this one because this filters the actual right things. And then you have to add back something else because in summer it gets so hot. And if you only drink the water, then you like flush out all the minerals. So it's such a complex thing. Like, how do you expect everyone to know everything? You know, like nobody's teaching any of it. And that's, I think, the beauty of the whole like creator economy rising is that everyone is going to be interested in something else and going to be specialized in something else. And then you can hopefully have like all these different like mentors and helpers that like explain to you like, yeah, you live there, okay, let me analyze the water for you, yeah, you have to do this and this, and this is the best coffee, and yeah, and mental health, and you know.
Yeah, no, I think that's something that I'm really fascinated with is the idea of everyone being an entrepreneur and like because we all have such different things that we enjoy. So it's like kind of going back to like the barter system where it's like, cool, you look at my water and I'll give you therapy services. Like perfect.
Uh-huh. So we go back again further where we
Yeah.
just exchange the things that we have and that we produce and that we
Hmm.
like innately carry with us and are interested in.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think that would be like in the next 50 years, I think it's going to be so big with like the use of technology and all that kind of stuff. Cause I have multiple friends who are like, no, I just like coding, but I don't like posting on anything. I'm like, cool, I'll do that if you code this. Like, let's do it.
Right? Like, okay, I love doing that. So I'm going to do that for you and you give me this. No, no, no.
Mhm.
That's amazing. I
Yeah,
love that.
absolutely. And kind of tying back into the food and everything like that. I know you live in a different country, so your food is way better than America's food. But how does nutrition go into your daily life? How do you incorporate that?
Oh, I love cooking. I love cooking and I
Okay.
love food. Yeah. It's actually something I've also considered like doing a nutritional degree. And I actually just spoke with a girl on X. She's called Nat. And she actually is a nutritionist and she recommended like a specific degree within it that is not only like, okay, the minerals and the vitamins, etc., but to understand like how the different ingredients and how the different vitamins actually affect you. So
Mm.
it can be combined with the whole like psychology and like mental health part. Personally, I very intuitively eat healthy, but at the same time, I indulge on anything I want. Like I don't restrict anything. I drink sometimes, I smoke sometimes, I eat whatever I want. Like I'll go for a burger, I'll go for a pizza, but like I think 95% of the time I eat vegetables.
Mhm. Okay.
You know, so it's like again like this balance thing coming in from everywhere. It's like personally, if you tell me I can never do this again, it will make me want to have it more. So why not just be like, okay, I'm gonna be doing this and this and this, and then like sometimes I'm gonna like fall off the wagon, but it's not like falling off the wagon. It's simply like, oh, I'm gonna go hop off and then I'm coming back on.
Absolutely. I'm kind of running out of questions here. So we'll go like this. Is if there was one question I would have asked you during this interview, what would it have been and how would you have answered it?
Ooh, no, I'd rather ask you a question. How do you see the podcast itself evolving, and like what are the things that you have learned from it so far?
I've learned so much from it. I think my biggest thing is just following something I love and talking to people who only ignite something inside of me and make me want to be better and make me want to talk with them. And that kind of enjoyment. I've gotten a lot of hate from the podcast. I've gotten a lot of love from the podcast. But my biggest thing has just been as long as I enjoy it. It's not here to be monetizable. It's here for me to get to talk with really cool people. Maybe someone else can learn something from it. Super cool if they do. If they don't, at least I get to say, hey, I learned a 1, 2, 3 method from Claire. That's that's all that matters to me. If I could just walk away with one little snippet, I'm like so set.
That's cool. No, and I think it's so comforting to actually realize that the world is so big and the people that are around us and may not be interested in the things that we're pursuing, not because that makes them incompatible to our lifestyle. It's just something that we're so passionate about that it's so nice to be able to speak with someone about entrepreneurship or like the
Hmm.
creator economy or whatever comes through that. So to pick people, like imagine we would have probably never met, you know, and
Yeah.
to actually be able to connect through this and like now know, like, I mean, today we spoke mostly about me, but like when we spoke in the call before, like I found out things about your life as well, and just it's so amazing to be able to follow how someone is evolving in their pursuit of whatever makes like fire inside of them, you know.
Yeah. It's been my favorite part. And I've grown up on social media and everything along those lines. And so the podcast for me has just really enabled me to not only get to be on social media, but also just get to really know people and share that just with the whole world, which is just it's so accessible now. And I just think everyone should do it. Even if it's one post a week. Share something.
Yeah. And doesn't it scare you in a sense like that anyone would be able to find you and know you, like not necessarily like in a celebrity way, but just in like a it's out there way, it's just like one cannot feel it. It's like just tap in the card when you pay. It's like, oops, money gone. So and then personality on the internet.
Yeah. I guess it doesn't scare me. It definitely takes a very strong sense of self to be able to post who you are and be able to be like, yeah, this is my address, everybody. Like, you can find me, you know where I am. But I think that's just the reality we live in. And it's been a thing for over 2 decades now. So it's like, it's
not gonna go away.
Yeah. And it's only getting more and more accessible for everyone. I mean, you can go just about anywhere on the dark web and find everyone's whole life on it. It's just how it exists and how it works. And it's the idea of the internet is not bad, but the people who use it make it bad or make it good. It's just like money. It's just like a knife. Like a knife can be used for great things and it can also be used for really bad things. And that's just, it depends on who is using it, how they're using it, how they're taught to use it. And so I can't control anyone else other than myself. And so I just aim to make the internet a better place every day.
And do you think, I mean, I think you've answered this in a way already, but just like wondering, is it that people are innately bad, or they do like grow up in circumstances that makes them behave in a way that would make them be perceived as bad because they don't know better?
I innately think it's how we're raised. I mean, I love my grandparents, but they're both racist, but they weren't taught any different. They were taught, black people are bad or this, that, and the other thing. It's like, no, it's just what they were taught. Now, is it right or wrong? That's always questionable because, not to get really political, Hitler thought he was right. And everyone doesn't like that argument, but he's like, he did. He was thoroughly convinced that he was right. And if you listen to his like political speeches in English, he was a great speaker, and no wonder people were convinced by him. He was a wonderful public speaker. And that can also be used in the opposite way, where it's like Trump, it could be a wonderful public speaker, the Putin or whoever the hell, like it just, there's no right or wrong. And I think that's like a super dangerous thing, but it's all about how they're raised, how they see things. And all you can do is just do the best with what you're given.
Absolutely. No, and I think it's a complicated topic again, because the perception of one today is the same. Like, I believe I'm right about the things that I believe I'm right about, but only because I live now. If I were to tell my perception to someone 50 years from now, then maybe they'd be like, oh my God, why do you think like that?
Right, right.
So it's such a complicated point to defend the position of mine being the correct one, because we're all right for whatever we believe.
Yeah, we're all right and we're all wrong. I think that's just something. It's also like having the comfortability to be able to look at someone and be like, no, I think you're wrong, so I'm going to keep doing my thing, but you do whatever you got to do. And it's like, there was a really big thing that went around, which was like sleeping on the floor, which is like super healthy. And someone, like a big argument got started about how sleeping on the floor isn't good for you. It is good for you. And it's like, sleep on the floor if you want, or don't sleep on the floor if you don't want to. Drink beer if you want, or don't if you don't want to. Like, it's, just do whatever makes you feel good and right, to a certain extent, of course. But yeah.
No, but I think that wraps it up so beautifully, because there's so much information out there about like what's the right way to eat, what's the right way to diet, what's the right way to exercise, what's the right way to work, everything, but if you like actually, once you actually dive into it, the more you know, the less you know. So the point is for everyone to just like be able to reflect it onto themselves and take the things that have like facts and information, but at the same time, don't just believe everything everybody says.
Right. And that comes down to just do it yourself. Try it. If it doesn't work, cool. That's okay. But it could work for someone else.
Absolutely.
It's just how it works. But I think a big thing, especially with social media, is the accessibility of all of this information. Everyone's like, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. It's like, okay, well, you're not doing anything to prove me wrong. You're just saying it. So go do it.
Even when they try to prove you wrong, their arguments are like,
yeah. It's like, oh, okay, you found that off of Wikipedia? Good to know.
Yeah. I'm proving this on TikTok.
Oh man, TikTok is another story. I really hope they completely close down TikTok, but that's just my opinion.
I'm not like fully on it. I'm like not like so identified with TikTok. That's already for the next generation, the Instagram generation, just like our parents or my parents are the Facebook one. But I mean, in some way, technology always will be able to help us, and like at the same time will be able to like bring us down, and eventually maybe it kills us or it sets us free.
Oh, 100%. There's a lot of hypothetical things. I mean, my parents don't like when I talk about it, but I'm like, the world either ends in 50 years or it's a wonderful place in 50 years, and there is no in between.
My mom always says she's happy she won't be here.
Like, well, we're here to find out. But yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else that you would like to chit chat about?
Do you have? No, give me a second. I'm sure I got some. I'm a shitty question asker in like pressure moments.
Okay. So that can go into like, I'm a crammer. and I love cramming. So I will like procrastinate until something's due, and then I'll cram it in the last minute. So
Mm.
what
But that
is
works really well sometimes.
sometimes, yeah. And does that work for you? Are you not someone who works good under pressure, or
I work great under pressure. I actually work better under pressure. If you
see?
give me all the time in the world, I'll do it in the last 10 minutes.
Yep. Crazy how that works, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it would be really beautiful to like find a way to trick yourself to think that the deadline is before the actual deadline. But the problem is that you know that the deadline is not before the deadline. So you always have like this safety net. But I think that's the beauty of growing as well. To like, at some point, it's going to kick us hard in the butt that we're not going to be able to plan it early enough. And then we're going to learn from it. But yeah, we learn from those mistakes, I suppose. Do you
Yeah.
have any like moment where that didn't work out for you?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the time it didn't work out for me. Now my thing, like you kind of said, the trick of the brain thing. My thing that I was taught by a mentor was set a timer and like convince your brain that you have 90 minutes to do this task or else everything's
Mm.
gone or else you have no chance of ever finishing it. And it like makes me just like you give yourself one thing for 90 minutes and you just go and you just get it done.
And has that been working for you?
Yeah, it works. I do it every morning. It usually I give
Cool.
myself I'm like 90 minutes. It's like, okay, what is like my task? Like, do I need to build a funnel? Do I need to do client work? Do I need to do writing? And I'll just like hammer it out in the first 90 minutes before I go to work. And it also is like the conviction of build something for yourself before you go build someone else's dream. Because I still work a day job. So
Yeah, I think that's something. It's nice because you have actually like some kind of deadline for real where you have to leave the house, and if you don't do it before, then you don't do it before. I think that's the thing that I've been struggling with more is that I have this whole day to like structure in a way that
yeah.
I please. So it's like okay, and like with this awareness of I need to take breaks and I need to like focus and then I need to take a break again. Like I try to plan it so much that if I were to just have the tasks more or less. And it's, I mean, some days it works and some days it doesn't, and it's a learning process. But there is no actual deadline of I need to be there at 5.
Right. Something that really helped me was I don't remember if it was Chris or Alex or Mosey, but they talk about if you give yourself some 24 hours to do something, it's going to take you 24 hours to do it. But if you give yourself an hour to do something, it's going to take you an hour to do it. And so like my biggest thing is just like constricting it and like choking the task as hard as I can to see how small of a time frame I can get it. And I'm like, can I do it? Got 2 minutes left. Rush.
And if not, I'll slap myself in the face.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree with this. I actually have like I think it's the post. I forget which one it was. But I had one post that I did last week that I had been trying to write all day, and then it's like, oh, let me quickly do the dishes. Let me like do this quickly, and then it's like, okay, I have 1 hour now. I'm like, okay, and then I get pissed because I don't have time to like. I'm doing like some engaging before I post and some engaging after I post. And on that specific day, I actually did have like a shift where I had to enter at 5. So I was like, man, now I have to go and I can't like do it right, you know?
Yep.
So that's the moment where it bites you in the butt. So.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. And I think my biggest thing that's helped me a lot with like my writing for Twitter is just sitting down and even if I have nothing to write, I just look at a blank page and then something comes and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I guess I'll write now. Like
it's like okay. No, I read that actually if you're not like you can't be distracted by anything else. Like you're on the task, and if you can't do the task, then you literally stare at a wall until you get bored of staring at a wall, and then idea
and then you do it.
That you're actually working.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. My partner will come in sometimes, and I'll just be staring at my computer, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Nothing, literally nothing." And then I'm like, "Okay, I guess I'll write."
Totally. I was sitting with some friends at a table the other day, and like we were all on our computers and all doing like different kinds of work, but like all of us like zoning out in moments and just being like. So if you would like kind of zone out and see them and be like, I'm not laughing because then otherwise I'm gonna like get all of us out of focus.
That's so awesome. It's great that you have friends to be able to go and do that kind of work with at like coffee shops and stuff.
Everyone does something different. Like they are managing the coffee shop. Like it's a different one, the one I used to work at, and he's the general manager there now. So he needs to take care of something there, and others need to like make those time schedules and stuff. So it's like, okay, cool. We just sit together in silence and love each other.
That's the best way to do it, I think. And I love that. So as we wrap this up a little bit, is there any actionable advice that you would like to give anyone, or any last thoughts that you would like to add?
I think that if anyone that is seeing this right now feels like they want to change something and they just don't know how, and they feel like they won't figure it out, or it's just all too hard and they can't make it, that it is possible, you know. And even if one doesn't believe so, it is, and it might take longer than a week to make it to 10K a month, you know, just how everyone is saying on the internet. but it's about your steps and it's about what you realize for yourself, and like that will take as long as it needs to, and it'll come at the time where you can actually handle it. So everyone grows with their responsibilities, and if you start to take the responsibility on yourself, then things will happen for you as well.
Comparison is the thief of joy. There you have it,
Yeah.
everybody. Thank you so much for coming on. Boom.